Welcome to I Have Some Questions. The show is all about asking questions our guests have never asked themselves before, never thought about, or been too afraid to explore. It's designed to uncover the human story at the root of successes and failures and help us as an audience learn and grow from that story. My hope is that you'll hear brilliant guests exploring new ideas and challenging themselves in new ways of thinking. I think this makes for great conversations. I'm going to bring on entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, scientists, and frankly, any vein of super interesting, successful, and passionate human I can find. I am fascinated by passionate people, and I have some questions for them. I'm Erik Berglund, and I hope you'll join me every week for new episodes. Hey, everybody. My next guest is Victor Almeida. Victor is the COO of Promotick Mexico, where he helps scale digital platforms and regional operations for their company. He's also a startup co-founder and an ecosystem builder. Victor is based out of Guayaquil, Ecuador. I think I said that right. I butchered it multiple times on the show. Victor is one of those where I was pretty pumped when I first started talking to him, and I thought the conversation might be great, and I'm so happy that I had Victor on this show. And let me tell you why. I have recently become aware of how difficult it is to build a digital business in other countries. And I became aware of it just through multiple podcasts and listening and getting a hunch. And now I've had a few guests on who can speak to it. And Victor's one of them, where, you know, I'm shooting this from North America. I live in Oregon, right? I've spent my whole life on the West Coast of the United States. And I take for granted our access to Wi-Fi, to bandwidth, to consistent power, and to the startup ecosystem that continues to provide digital tools at a B2B and B2C level. And I think it's easy for most of us to just assume that's normal globally. And it's recently been made apparent to me that that is not the case. And so I have a current fascination with finding really thoughtful business leaders who can articulate the challenging environment and yet raw opportunity available for building these types of companies in foreign countries. Foreign to me, anyway, right? And Victor is one of them. I'm so excited. I hope you join for this episode, and I'll repeat it in the review episode, probably the big takeaway about the difference in building a business there in Ecuador. But please welcome Victor to the show. Victor, I'm so excited to have you on. Thanks for being willing to take some time with me. I think you're going to be able to share some cool insights that we North Americaners don't necessarily think about when it comes to the digital world. And I just find that people from different cultures who play in the digital space usually have some insights and thoughts and limitations and opportunities that we're just completely unaware of in the States. So I'm pretty pumped to dive deep on that with you. But maybe you could share a little bit. You've had a rapid rise at Promotick there. You went from the chief commercial officer to the COO here recently. Maybe you could share a little bit of that journey with us just to familiarize the audience and myself with where you've been over the last year or so professionally.
Well, first of all, thank you, Erik, for having me. It's an honor being here. And well, I just first have to say that here in Latin America, we usually have this kind of philosophy or thought that you always have to adapt. It sometimes might sound sad, but we're usually in survival mode, and adaptability is a key feature in order to grow in different parts of your life and a career. So that brings me to actually where I am now. So going back a couple of years, actually around 4, I graduated in a major which by any means relates to what I'm doing right now at Promotick. So I majored in political science and public administration because I thought that I wanted to be in politics. You know, young Ecuadorian living abroad, wanting to make a real change. But during this journey, I ended up in places I didn't plan to, in not a bad way. In fact, I started working in the digital transformation chamber of Ecuador at first, and then I jumped into clusters. Clusters is a more common, let's say, figure or aggregation of companies over there in the US and in Europe, but in here in Ecuador, it was pretty new. and I had this challenge to actually understand what's a cluster and how to make it work. And that was all in the side of technology and digital transformation. I spent about 4 wonderful years in that sector. And then, as I always believe, and I always has believed, there was time for a change and you know, a more challenging approach. I always like to think for myself that I'm capable of adapting to different situations, and that's what I did. So the position in Promotick opened up. I accepted, and at first it was a really cultural shock because this is loyalty, marketing, programs, different stuff that I wasn't used to in my other jobs. But hey, when I pretty got the, as I call the thing of it, how it worked out, I just started climbing this ladder and started actually, I started just in commercials stuff. Then the corporate board of directors said like, hey, Victor, we love your approach of how I always try to put people first, work after. And this approach helped me to land the CEO position in our office in Mexico. And mid last year, around June or July, they actually gave me the product management of gift cards, virtual gift cards, e-gift cards division that we have in Promotick. So that's where I'm right now in both charges. It's a little bit challenging because I have to coordinate my team in Mexico, my team here in Ecuador. I travel a lot, but it's been fun and it's been challenging, and I love that kind of challenge because I think it makes me grow more as a professional than maybe staying in a comfort zone in the digital transformation world.
What's been the biggest challenge adapting from that initial role and then to taking on an expanded, not just team size and geography, but operations is a wildly different side of the business than commercialization. So what for you has been maybe the most challenging or interesting part of that problem set to solve?
Well, I probably would say that it will be the type of teams you are dealing with. When you're in the commercial side of the company, you usually have a sales team where you just reach out to potential leads and follow this funnel, as I call it, in order to close the client. And once it's closed, your job is done and you leave it. And you don't worry about anything else but to bring in more leads, more customers, and keep the business growing. On the operation side, it's a completely new world. The commercial part of Promotick deliver us the new clients, and I have to help establishing their platforms because we have the platform where they use, where they create their their loyalty programs, and then I have to work with them and their teams to manage the prices they're gonna give, the type of prices, how much money they're investing. And it's funny because that was not the challenging part, that was the fun part. The challenging part for me was passing from just giving reports on my leads and how I was doing my commercial functions, and passing actually to actually making a business profitable. Because when I reach out as CEO of Promotick Mexico, I face it like, hey, okay, so what are your projections? Are you gonna manage growth? How are you manage changing a new team? Because when I arrived in Mexico, I was new, but the whole team in Mexico was also new. And well, it was challenging because I needed to take action in a country I didn't know, and I needed to trust people from there. So yeah, I think that there's a mix between challenging and fun during this transition, but it's going well so far.
Yeah, I hear that. What you said was that, or what I heard anyway, was that when you're in the sales role, you're not necessarily thinking about profitability. You're trying to make the deal work. You're trying to figure out the pricing, and we really only see when we're in sales, the top line revenue. We have no sense of the margin that might be gained by that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask you the question, because that's a harsh shock sometimes for someone who goes from the commercialization side of the business to like, oh crap, we got to make a profit on this thing, not just get the customer to say yes.
You said it perfectly, yes. And sorry to interrupt, actually.
Go for it.
That actually was the most probably challenging and the most curious stuff, because corporate said to me like, hey, but what are your margins here? Oh, well, maybe just 1-2%. And they were like, okay, then close the operation, because that does not work for us. So I have to go and make deals with providers, even the clients, and you start getting into all this stuff that never before I thought when I was in sales. So yeah, it's challenging, it's hard, but I think it gives me a more complete sense of what the business is doing.
Yeah, it's usually incredibly valuable for us. I came through the sales side of business as well, to become more aware of operational margin and to genuinely get a sense of the deals we can and should make are not always the same thing. And you had the added layer of, your team, it sounds like, was newer, but you then had to be the guy who used to ask for a certain price to the guy who had to say no to those people you might have commiserated about not being able to get the right pricing with. And I lived that journey as well. It's really tough to go from being peers with people to leading people and having to tell them things that you didn't want to hear when you were in their job.
So
what's the leadership journey been like, man? How's that gone for you?
Well, at first it was a big shock, because as you said, I was used to, getting certain prices and making a profit. And then you're thinking about, let's be honest, your commission and, all the other benefits from reaching your goals, to actually saying, hey, I'm not going to do any business with you if you maintain those prices. And then I became a really tough negotiator. I've always cherished myself that I usually try to communicate actually good, maybe in English is a little bit more challenging. This is not my first language, but I started to negotiate things when I started to think about, okay, if I want my team to grow, if I want the operations to grow, I need to be a better negotiator. So that was the first point in which I started taking a more role of leadership, because what I'm thankful about corporate here in Promotick is that they're not the type of bosses. Maybe you've faced some bosses along your career that are like, hey, really micromanaging and with you in every meeting and almost telling you when you have to go to the bathroom. But here in corporate was like, hey, you just be you and get us the margins we're just asking. And for that, you have to maybe go out, because I did go out with the providers and have a coffee or maybe a glass of wine and negotiate in different terms. Hey, you do you. And that's what I did. And that's how I established this leadership. And always thinking about my team. I always tell my team like, hey, maybe I'm the boss here, but we're human beings. So let's work as a team. And if we work properly, hey, I'm not going to be the kind of boss that is going to ask you, why are you coming in late? Or maybe, hey, you need a day off because you had an emergency with your kid. Hey, we're humans. Everything happens. And always, I try to be a type of leader that doesn't point out flaws, but rather encourage them to be better. I always tell them, hey, it's good, but you can do better, because people usually need this type of encouragement and feel appreciated in the same time. That's some things that I learned along my way, and I'm trying to put into work in this new role of leadership that I'm having right now here at Promotick. You're on mute, Erik.
My bad. I was coughing and didn't want to cough into the mic, so I kept it on mute there. The thing you were saying earlier is that you feel like you earned the next role, the COO job, because of your appreciation for your people. And what I just heard you say is you really take that part to heart. It's really important to you to help them continue to push and grow. And I can only imagine that still that created some tension and some challenging conversations you had to have with people. And I lived through that same thing. We don't need to dwell on those. I just know what that lives like, and so I can empathize with the challenge of that. What's on the horizon for you? How do you think you still need to grow? What's your next direction you're trying to get better at?
Well, right now I'm working on better communication skills. I met a really interesting monk in a Buddhist temple last year during a trip to China.
Whoa.
And well, I'm a Catholic. I just was curious about this famous Buddha temple just right in the middle of downtown Shanghai. You can imagine these big buildings with big LED lights and everything, and just a temple that has been there for about 2 centuries. And I just went in there, actually making time for a friend to catch me, and then we will have the dinner together. We went to have dinner together, but I just was making time, and the entrance was open, and just went in. And he told me, well, using Google Translate actually, because I don't speak Chinese. He told me like, what was I doing there? Because I look like a busy businessman. Because I was on my phone texting my team. Because you probably know you're never really on vacation after you start working in the corporate world. But he asked me, what are you doing? And I said, like, well, I'm just making time until my friends arrive. And he told me, well, change is part of life. And in order to have change, you have to have movement. And in order to have movement, you have to be open to the uncertainty of what's next. So that made me think a lot. And I said, like, hey, I like my corporate job, yes. But I'm not planning to making a long career here. And it's probably going to sound a little funny, but my goal is by 42 years old to literally sell everything and move to San Martin, this island in the Caribbean, and buy a taxi and put on a bar over there and just live a peaceful, relaxed island life. But that's my goal in 10 years. I have a different goal in the next 5 and the next 2 years. Because my uncle, which was a really good man, he was a mentor to me, and he said, hey, we have to have 3 goals: a long-term goal, a mid-term goal, and a short-term goal. So my long-term goal, and you ask me, hey, where are you heading next? To San Martin, man. You're invited to visit me anytime. My mid-term goal is actually to have build my own business. I actually have an early stage startup right now. Maybe we can dig into that in a bit. So yeah. That's the thing that it's missing in my life, because my grandpa always said to me, like, hey, to be a true man, you have to do 3 things: write a book, plant a tree, build a business. And he always said, like, I forgot about the 4th most important: have a kid. So I already wrote a book. It's actually in Spanish on Amazon. It's a short book. I already planted a tree. To be completely honest, I love palm trees, so I planted a palm tree in a small beach town here in Ecuador called Salinas. And well, I'm just missing having my own business and having a kid. Still yet to have kids. I do want to have kids, but they will come with time. So yeah, that's what I'm heading. And my short-term goal this year is it's gonna be a little vague, but just to make 2026 an awesome year. by finding my peace between work, family, friends, and enjoying life with the little things.
Man, what a clear framework for a successful life your uncle shared with you there. Like, plant a tree, write a book, build a business, have a kid. That's a pretty stellar list. Tell me more about your book. I didn't actually realize you were an author. Tell me about it.
Well, this is a book I always try to call more of a manifest because it's a short 50-ish pages book, which is called I Want to Be President. So this book, I wrote it during my university years when I was thinking of making a change in Ecuador, because you probably have heard we have a little big problem here in Latin America, which is politics and corruption. And usually we're underdeveloped country because of that. And I wanted to make a change. Along the path during, after I graduated, I did my master's degrees and I started traveling and working in different jobs. I understood that I didn't need to be president in order to make a change, but rather be a good person in order to make a change in the world, because you impact everyone that surrounds you. And so I wrote this book, and I was literally telling what I would do if I was the president of Ecuador in order to fix things, in order to help poor people, in order to give same opportunities to everyone and not just looking on how much money you have or how many contacts your parents have, which is a sad thing that happens here in general in Latin America. So that's what the book's about. Probably around 8 people have bought it. Just one left a review and 1-star review saying like, "Hey, this looked like a kid's book that it was written by a kid." And he just said like, "Yeah, actually it was. So what are you expecting?" Yeah, so that's the book about. It's in Spanish, and I wanted to give it for free, but because I said, hey, I just want to have my message out there. But Amazon thought otherwise and told me, hey, you have to charge at least $5 for your book and 99 cents for your Kindle version.
This is your book, The Oak and the Sapling. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ordering it. You're going to sell 2 copies, buddy.
Oh,
here we go.
Awesome. What I've done with the profits of that, with those 8 books, I usually donate to an orphanage here in Ecuador, and that even though you think it's little money, it's actually quite helpful for food and everyday stuff over there. So thank you, man.
Well, you're very welcome, and I love your excitement and optimism and agency you're creating for yourself in the world. Usually to be able to affect change, you have to develop valuable skills that are applicable to solving the problems you want to solve. And we haven't known each other long, right? We're just talking, but I can tell just in listening, you've got a heart for helping the people that you know and love in your community. And, your entrepreneurial instincts to go and level up yourself and take on bigger roles and launch a company tend to be the vehicle by which communities are lifted up. That's the story of Western capitalism for the last several hundred years, is like the best way to lift people out of poverty and hardship. Create businesses, create jobs, create value that somebody else will procure. And the South America is a really fascinating place to look at from the States, right? And I'm fairly naive as I say this, but I'm aware of my naivete, is that you have an incredible amount of risk and destabilization. But I employ a number of people from South America on my teams, and what I found is that uncertainty and that risk creates incredibly adaptable, talented human beings. And the perseverance and multiple skill sets and Swiss Army knives and ability to connect disparate things is often what it takes to create businesses. And so I've just had the good fortune of being exposed to South American entrepreneurs who come out of a place of instability and are able to go do wonderful things because of it. And so I applaud your vision, and I would encourage you. You might be able to change some lives running a bar and a taxi in St. Kitts. I've actually been to Nevis before, or not St. Kitts. You said St. Martin, but I've been to Nevis and St. Kitts before on a President's Club trip. One beautiful part of the world, and you might find you can have a massive impact in the world at the same time as running your bar. And and taxi cab because you can do it all digitally from anywhere you want in the world. So I would just say, don't limit yourself, man. You don't have to turn it off just because you're living somewhere else and running a bar instead.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I'm looking forward to transitioning to this digital type of work. I mean, digital nomads are fascinating people. I've been able to meet a lot of them during my time, and for the last couple of years, I always thought to myself, like, hey, I want to be like them, but that's it. And that's what usually happens with people. We just limit ourselves to just wish to be somewhere, but we don't do anything about it. So you asked me, hey, what are you working on? What's your future looking like? And I'm actually working on soft skills in order to transition to this type of remote work, in order to apply it to my startup. Maybe I fail, maybe I win, start being an entrepreneur, and that's okay. Uh, but what you said about how have you met different Latin Americans and how this adaptability has standed out in them, it's because, and I always think about this quote. I'm a guy full of quotes. I love reading. I love movies. So usually when you're talking to me, and hopefully we keep talking after this interview, you will always hear about me telling different type of quotes. And there was this particular movie. I don't know if you have seen it, Dune 2.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge
Which
Dune fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Dune universe. So when Paul says to his old master when they uh, meet again after all what happened, he said like when you don't have anything and fear is all you have. So we work with that. And I'm not saying like here in Latin America we live with fear, but uncertainty usually turns to leads to fear about what's gonna come ahead in the future. This stabilization is not only in more of a big image here, talking about politics or big corporations. This stabilization also happens here in Latin America in jobs like mine, because margins are so thin that maybe, hey, today I have a job. Tomorrow, margins are not that good, so they're not able to sustain my position, and I found myself out of a job almost like immediately. So when you live in this uncertainty, my mom, when I was a 15 years old kid, I was really shy. I only had two friends in high school, and one day I was just playing some video games. I got to be honest, I love playing video games still today. Um, but I was really shy. I was not outgoing. Probably I wouldn't be able to have this interview with you. And she just sat across the room and told me, Victor, I did not raise a kid just to be here and not go outside and face the world. If you don't take risk, you don't win. And if you lose, you learn. So go out there, take a risk, ask that girl that you like out, meet new people, make new friends. And that's exactly what I did. And I'm glad I took that advice from my mom. And that's what actually moved me and probably moved thousands of people here in Latin America. Hey, if you don't take the risk, yeah, probably you'll lose. And maybe you, Eric, have your count of losses as everyone, but you just need one win and your life changed completely. And that's why I always tell my team, my friends, my family, hey, just go and risk it. The worst thing that maybe could happen is that you die, but hey, we're all gonna die. So what are you afraid of?
Man, your family sounds really cool. Like you've got all this
They
wisdom
are.
coming from previous generations of get your ass outside, go flirt with a girl, go start the business, go plant a tree, go write a book. That's pretty cool. What a fun origin story for you. I love your
Yeah.
comparison. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
no,
off. I
no,
was a
no,
little
it's
delayed.
okay. No, you're totally right. I mean, family for me, it's my foundations. As the Victor you know now, the Victor you've been communicated for the last couple of minutes, uh, it's the result of this wisdom that's probably the the heritage my family has given me. Uh, Besides my 1992 Toyota Land Cruiser, which I love because I love classic cars, man. So, um, and yeah, hopefully you'll get to meet them one day. I have friends all over the world, in China, in Spain, in the States, Chile. I can mention Egypt. A lot of friends, and most of the time I invite them to Ecuador because you probably have seen, if you type Ecuador right now in Google, probably you're gonna see gangs fighting each other or narcos killing each other. But there's more to it, and it's not that dangerous. Usually the media just focus on the negative side, but if you go around, probably, I don't know, TripAdvisor or Reddit, many Americans fell in love with Ecuador. Many live here in Ecuador, even under the current circumstances. And this type of wisdom is not only found in my family. Actually, it's in the whole people here in Latin America. Let's not say Ecuador. Let's say the whole Latin America, because our parents, our grandparents, have faced different challenges, and
Right.
they've overcome them, and they have this full of wisdom. And if you listen to them, hey, you're gonna make some big steps in your life.
Well, that's phenomenal that you've had that insight and perspective and that wisdom cast upon you by your family. You know, going back to your Dune analogy, because I cannot skip when I get to talk about Dune with somebody. Why in God's name would I not? But you know what it made me think of, and I don't want to take the comparison too far because that could sound wrong, but like the observation of desert power as being uniquely valuable because it has been consistently exposed to hardship and challenge and has therefore created a population that is uniquely capable is pretty cool. And human capital is something that even as we deploy more AI and computational power and data centers, will not stop being the primary assets for every company and every entity and every country and culture and town. And so you're in a community that community might be the wrong word, but you're in a geographic dynamic that could create its own version of desert power because of that type of stress or strain. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is you're emerging as an entrepreneur coming out of Central America with global perspective on digital tools and processes that could be really helpful. And so I love hearing that origin story and getting to talk a little bit about Dune in the process. What's your side hustle? What's the company you spun up in addition to your COO job?
So this is like the first time I'm talking about this platform, this startup on a live podcast. It's not a secret, but I have a mindset that work in silence and don't make that much of a noise until it's done. So yeah, this startup is called FIRU, and what the FIRU does, it's a platform to connect and to make opportunities equal to everyone. So I found this problem here in Ecuador. Let's say you're in your office right now, or maybe at your home, and you start to have a water leak in your kitchen faucet. So what you do, you probably go online and search, hey, I need plumbing services. You type in, it shows up, I don't know, a number or an email of somebody, and you just make the call, and they come over, they fix it, they charge you, and they leave. Here in Ecuador and Latin America, we don't have that. I mean, people have to call the friend of a friend in order for them to recommend somebody, and that happens from that little plumbing service and up to supply chain management and providers. There are no communications. So what the FIRU does is like they take everyone that has a company. Obviously, they have to go through some certain filters that they are a real company, that they are not doing some money laundering and stuff like that. And they show in this platform, so any corporate, or it's like a B2C to B or a B2B type of startup. So anyone can go in and say like, hey, I need 10,000 doors for my building, which I'm constructing right now. Okay, so you got 5 offers, and free market, you choose the one that suits you best, and you do that on the platform, and then you just go and do your business by yourself. These platforms just to connect you. The thing that is missing here in Ecuador, and we have identified last year, my co-founder went to Colombia Tech Week, and we showcased the idea, and people fell in love with it. We're still working on leaving this early stage pre-seed and have an MVP. But the most challenging part is not having the ideas, or not knowing what to do, but actually having time to do it. Because my full-time job, it's hard, and we have talked with different accelerators, and they say, okay, which one of you is leaving their job to focus 100% on startup? And financing is the biggest challenge in early stage startups, because we've been using family and friends for different things and to develop this MVP. But in order to grow and to establish a true go-to market strategy, we still need to raise money. And the biggest challenge of it all is having the time to go and fill out applications, or reaching out to funds or VCs or angel investors. And that's probably the biggest challenge we're facing with our startup.
That's so fascinating. And this is exactly why I hoped type of conversation that would emerge from talking with you, because to my audience, most of my audience is North America at this point. Mm-hmm. We would think about solving the problem you described as, I need a plumber, and I could go to Google Maps and I could type in plumbers in my city and I would find 50 options. Mm-hmm. I just did this while you were talking. I looked for plumbers, and how do you say the name of the town you're in? Guajillo? Is that how you say that?
Guayaquil.
I totally screwed that up. Sorry.
That's okay.
If you pull up Google Maps and you look for plumbers, and I suspect Guayaquil is, there's a lot of people in that area. It looks like one of the population hubs in Ecuador. So this is not a small city in the country. There's
the
5
one.
plumbers. There's only 5 plumbers that come up. There are so many more residential plumbers in your town, that your city, than that, and yet they're not on Google Maps. So this is what's fascinating to me about digital access and digital products globally. Is in the States, we have the benefit of the Silicon Valley and similar communities that create an enormous number of digital products to serve the North American audience. And they work, they mature, and we just all take them for granted. And it is mind-blowing that Angie's List or Google's simple Google ads, or not Google ads, excuse me, just Google listings for Google Maps isn't a thing in each community.
It's not.
Ecuador can't be the only one. It's got to be every country in South America that struggles with this, I would wager. Is that accurate?
Yeah, totally accurate. And it's a big problem here, because there are more than 5 plumbers, as you said, here in Guayaquil.
Yeah.
Totally. And sorry, it was one of my teammates just came to reach something, but yeah, and there is no digital presence of people. I wrote an article that's coming out in February in Spanish, but I'll pass it to you so you can read it in the magazine, which says like, hey, our biggest problem here in Ecuador, not only Guayaquil, it's something as simple as internet connectivity. Because around 40 to 41% of the population doesn't even use their bank apps, and they're not used to the digital world. As you probably, maybe I tell you, hey, Erik, come over to Ecuador. We're going to have a barbecue. And if you want to help with buying stuff, so send me $40. You probably go either to your regular bank account or your e-wallet, or I don't know, something like Revolut, or many fintech apps that are out there to transfer money and will probably arrive instantly. But that doesn't happen here. People don't know how to navigate the digital world, and usually they tend to be afraid of it. They looked at it as, hey, it's a huge challenge. It's difficult. It's complicated. I'm not gonna get that into it. And it's a problem and an opportunity at the same time.
And I mean, if I just played a little bit further and I looked up restaurants in your city there, and it turns out
Mm-hmm.
there's only like 13 restaurants in that city. That's amazing. It's absolutely mind blowing from this end to hear that isn't the case, that you can't just look on Google Maps. And yet at the same time, what you're sharing is the reason why population hasn't necessarily adopted it. And there's a bit of a give and take there, right? Like a population has to adopt it enough that that's how people find it. And also businesses have to publish it that way so people can find it. And so I think your app is a brilliant idea to solve that problem. And maybe you could speak a little bit more to the funding side of what is it like to try and raise funds for a digital product or service in Central America or Latin America, in Ecuador specifically?
Well, the first and foremost, probably the most important challenge I faced trying to raise money is that when I go to talk to any fund, any VC, any angel investor, the first thing they ask is which of you two, me and my co-founder, um, is working 100% on your app. And when the answer is none of us, because, well, he's older than me, he has a family, and, the responsibility a father has, and cannot live like this corporate job, and neither do I, because I need to make a living. They say, like, okay, when someone, any of you, it's actually working 100%, then we'll talk about money because your idea is awesome, but we need someone dedicated on it. And I get it, it's normal. But that's the most important challenge I faced as an Ecuadorian founder. And I talked to other founders here in the Latin American ecosystem, and that's their biggest challenge. So usually, sure, what they do to bypass this first, let's say, challenge, they even take on personal loans to focus 100% on the app and then get the money through different financing options, and they go outside. But that's not the best case scenario. And there are no culture for entrepreneurship, so banks are not used to just lending money for anything. And if they do, they have these huge interest rates, and or they ask you for collateral. So it's really hard and challenging to raise money as a Latin American founder.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it'd be very difficult to bootstrap a company in Latin America in the same way. The ability just to, if digital access is that limited, or if digital adoption is that limited, then it makes it very difficult to monetize a digital product enough that you could actually pay yourself to continue to do so and to change that. What do you think at a policy level? And I just don't mean political level. I mean, I don't know enough about policy locally or in Ecuador. What is the policy environment like for entrepreneurs? Taxation, is it stifling? Is it open? Like, how does that play into it, if at all?
To be completely honest, it's horrible. There are a lot of bad policies, and when they usually try to help entrepreneurs, they just focus on what the country does best, which are primary products, cattle, fruits, vegetables, oil. And we tech entrepreneurs don't find it easy even to establish a company there. For me, it's easier. We've done so, establish a C Corp in Delaware from here, than
Sure.
rather than rather establish a company here, because it takes me around $1,000 to $1,500 to establish a company here, around 2 months, and I probably have to bribe an official in order to make the process go through. So it's a sad reality, and I've heard that happens the same in Colombia, in Peru, in Bolivia, in Chile, and so it's not that easy, and there are no political agenda, nor policies, nor actors working to develop these policies here. Our countries are just in survival mode and doing what maybe old generations, with all due respect, I say it, are focusing on. Hey, let's keep focusing on what works. Let's not risk it in anything else. So, hey, we've been selling bananas and shrimp for the last 15 years. Let's keep doing so, and we just focus on that. And they don't see more. So that's a big challenge, because we don't have policymakers. Nobody is talking about the agenda. And when you brought it, when I was in my past job in this digital transformation cluster, we did try approaching to the government and different officials, entrepreneurs, banks, to work in policies to help improve that. And we were partly successful. We have our first digital transformation law passed this year, but it's clearly not enough. And it took so much time in order to get approved that right now it's completely obsolete because it's outdated. And you know how technology works. It changes every day, and you need to adapt every single day. And if policies don't adapt at the same pace, what you're going to have is just an outdated policy that it's keeping growth behind, because we're not able to do anything about it.
Well, it makes a lot of sense now why you have a desire to go into politics and try to change that level of it. Personally, I hope you keep going the entrepreneurial route and carve out your success there and change lives and transform communities through your entrepreneurial adventures. And that might earn you the clout and ability to go be influential at a political level. I think highly of, in the States, our emergence of politicians that came up through business and have built things who then merge into the political arena in order to leverage it. And so I wish you the best. I want to be respectful of your time because I know we're coming up. Victor, if somebody wants to strike up a conversation with you or say hello or check out your companies, where should they make contact?
Well, you can find me easily on LinkedIn as Victor Andres Almeida, but you can reach out through my email, on my personal email. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it out loud, or maybe I'll just pass it to you and you show it.
Up to you. We'll put it in the show notes if you want, or people can chase you on LinkedIn. It's really up to you.
Sure thing. But my most personal, I would say, like social media account where you can reach me easily is probably my Instagram. It's funny because I don't have a lot of followers. It's a private Instagram, but I use it as it is meant to use, as a social network. And many new friends have reached out through me, either for my trips or maybe my occasional wine posts, because I'm passionate about wine. So it's Beacon 2294, which is VICAN 2294. And you can reach me through there. I'm usually really open and always open to having a conversation with anyone that desires to do so.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll put those links in the show notes. And Victor, you're going to have to come back on so we can talk about how good Oregon Pinot Noirs are. I also enjoy wine. It would be fun to have that conversation another time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week, everybody.
Thank you, Erik.
Thanks for joining us this week. Don't forget to take a second and subscribe. Maybe even share this episode with somebody it made you think of, or someone you think would take some value from it. This show is all about uncovering the brilliance and humanity of high performers. And whether those performers have a massive following or a podcast or a book, or they're a business owner, or they're buried somewhere in a corporation, or maybe they're a nonprofit leader, or they don't necessarily have to have a title. I'm really fascinated by people who are passionate and who are doing interesting things. So if you or somebody you know would be a good guest, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email at hello@languageofleadership.io to make that connection. I'll see you next week.